Hi. That's what I always like to start it as awkward as possible.
Your openings are getting better and
better. I think just a simple hi is always really solid. First, I apologize for the delay in start time. It falls on my shoulders. I realized as soon as I sat down, I should probably pay the cable bill right now, because if I don't, knowing Time Warner, they're going to completely shut off our internet during the show. So it's a little past 6, but we're starting a little bit late. But thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Monday, episode number 118 of Ginger Runner Live. I am, of course, Ethan.
And I'm Kim.
And I really like this Kim's in the chat room thing and like on camera and stuff. So I think we're going to be doing this more often. I'm going to shut down the ad here just because that's what I want to do. On tonight's show, I'm really excited to have him back. He's one of my favorite guests to have on the show, Brandon Wood, a.k.a. the Gearist. We're going to talk to him about gear, of course, at some point during the show. It's going to come up because every time I have Brandon on the show, all I want to do is geek out on gear. But we're also going to talk a bit about Transrockies, which is the big race that we're doing this coming August, and kind of see where Brandon's at with training, where we're at with training.
I'm not carrying you.
Yeah, you're not carrying me on your back or anything.
Wait, you're not?
Great. That would be great. So sit back, relax, guys. We've got our adult beverages here on the show tonight. So if you've got yours, grab them. If you would prefer something else, grab that as well. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 118. Let's begin now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay!
Woo!
Welcome to the show, everybody. Happy Monday, our favorite night of the week. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 118. As I mentioned in the pre-show there, we have a guest on tonight, have had on many episodes of the show.
A fan favorite.
Fan favorite. People love it when Brandon is on. I love it when Brandon is on. Once again, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Kim.
And Kim will be in the chat room pretty much the entire show, keeping an eye on questions, and the chat usually goes off on fun tangents. If you guys have questions during the show, feel free to type them into the chat room. Kim will keep an eye on it.
Yep.
And let me introduce tonight's guest, back from a hiatus from the show. He's been on many, many times before, as I mentioned. A wonderful gear reviewer, a really talented athlete, triathlon, an Ironman, owner, proprietor of Gearist, including the YouTube channel Gearist. Here he is, Mr. Brandon Wood. Hello, my friend.
Hello, how are you guys? I too
Welcome.
am a favorite of me being on Ginger Runner Live.
We always love it.
Maybe you were the fan that
Oh, yeah.
saying that you were the fan favorite.
Exactly. I wrote that and I was like, you know who you should have on. I'm just kidding.
We get like 30 emails a week saying, you got to bring Brandon back on, but it makes sense that every one of them is signed Brandon. So,
It does.
baby
I
Gear.
spell it. I switch it up with like a BRANDYN just to throw you.
Mhm.
You never know.
One thing I also love, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say just a couple things off the top of the show. There's already a lot of controversy in the chat room that
Oh,
maybe
no.
we need to just take care of right away.
Let me guess. This stuff,
The beard.
the beard. All right. So on this show, I have promised for weeks, Brandon, I don't mean to start the show with this, but I've been talking about it for weeks, hating the fact that the beard, it's big now, and it's gross. Food's getting stuck in it, and it's turning into that, like, yeah.
That episode
so-
of Family Guy where Peter had birds living in his.
Kim's actually joked about that. She's like, I think I see a beard today, or a bird today in the beard.
Yeah.
So I promise, the reason I was growing it is kind of a tradition that I have is I usually go freshly shaven a couple months before a race, and I grow a beard for whatever race I'm running. Kind of a superstitious thing. It's only been in the last couple of years that it's really like, oh man, I'm going to grow a beard for this race. So Sun Mountain was a special race for me because, you know, I talked about it on the last week's show, and I just released the race video from that on Friday. I talk a little bit about it in there. But the beard was something I grew specifically for Sun Mountain. And I was like, oh, I'm going to shave it as soon as I finish. But then I officiated my first wedding this last week, and it's a mountain wedding, a trail runner wedding. So part of me was like, don't show up to a trail runner wedding with a freshly clean shaven face.
It would have looked so weird if you had like a clean shaven
Perfect.
baby face.
Yeah, baby
'Cause there
face.
was a lot of burly beards there.
Yeah.
A lot of very well like groomed beards, shiny beards. It would have been weird.
I would have felt completely out of place. And the whole night would have been, hey, you guys shouldn't have seen my beard last week. It was so great. So I kept it for the wedding, and a part of me is like kind of liking the size and it's growing on me.
I like the beard.
Well done.
Do you wanna,
Because as that came out, it hurt my soul a little bit, but then enough made me laugh.
I've had people commenting, being like, "Just got to get Ethan to shave that beard." And I'm like, I like
Kim
it.
likes it. Kim likes it, and I kind of like it too. So we'll see how long it lasts. It very well could get to the point when it already is a little disgusting, so it could very well get there. And maybe I'll just keep it trimmed or something.
Yeah.
You should shave it halfway
Alright.
through the wedding and be like, "Hi, I'm Ethan," and "Hi, I'm Ethan's little brother."
Or like on it was for Dom and Katie, and Dom has a huge, awesome mustache, so maybe just shaved her side so it was clean shaven for her.
The last man on earth. Or
Yeah.
what the show
That
is.
would have been perfect. Okay, so
Sorry, just need to get that cleared up. I mean, there was a lot of buzz going
perfect
on.
example of how good the chat room can be. The discussion usually veers off at some point to something. But yeah, if you guys have questions or anything like that for Brandon or for myself or for Kim, bring them on up in the chat room. Kim, will jump in.
Training gear.
Yeah, this is the great.
This is a free for all, I'm guessing.
These are great episodes when we have Brandon on, because he's an expert in gear, has worked in the running industry for a number of years, and has been reviewing gear for a very long time. So very knowledgeable. You guys have two shoe experts here to ask questions. So it's always a good opportunity for that.
Mhm.
Brandon,
Yes,
how
sir.
are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. No baby Gearist tonight.
No, she should actually be getting ready to go to bed. So you may hear a little bit of protesting, depending on how vociferously she chooses to do so. But she's heading to bed. She actually, I have to be honest, was one of the kind of big things that this is going to seem like, if you're not a parent, this might not seem like the biggest deal. But for me, particularly someone who loves to be on a bike, this is a big deal. And she, 2 weeks ago from yesterday, learned to ride a bike without training wheels. And so I was super, and she's already taken several diggers, but she kind of, like, from the Lao Tzu quote, which I will paraphrase to her. She's like, "Dad, did you fall 100 times when you were a kid?" I said, "Yeah, but who cares if you fall 100 times? You just have to get up 101 times. So literally, as I'm wiping blood off of her and gravel out of her skin, she's like, "Dad, when we go back downstairs, when I get back on my bike," and I'm like, "Oh," and I shed a tear because I was so proud, because she's like, "Yes, I'm going to get back on it and do it." So it's a very proud moment. And so she's on summer break now. So all the more reason and chance to get all dinged up on a bike.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Is she in clipless pedals yet, or on a Cannondale? What's she riding?
No, I mean, I just have her in air bars. I mean, primarily that's the thing right now, because when we do go mountain bike here, I have a quick story for you. This may be a tangent that we can talk about later if you would like to, but Cannondale sent us a new bike, the Trigger, what is it? The Habit Carbon 3. Really great mountain bike, that full suspension mountain bike Cannondale sent us for me to try out. And so I was on this single track a couple weeks ago, and the single track kind of runs beside a road, and so a dirt road. And so I come down, because this is open pasture and there are fences that kind of bar it off at certain places. There's no gate, but the single track has to go down onto the dirt road, and then you can pick up on the other side. And so I stand up on the pedals to go to pedal, because I see there's some barbed wire fence coming up, and I stand up, I put my weight down to pedal, and my right foot just lets go completely, and I ate shit right into a barbed wire fence. And so I have these, like, really just it looked like, I got home and my wife was like, "Did you get attacked by a cougar? What happened?" And the derailleur hanger had just completely sheared off. No mandate on, this is not speaking ill of Cannondale at all, it's a great bike, but it was just kind of a malfunction of that derailleur hanger. But it was something, man. So yeah, we're trying to ease her into stuff like that. I figure her dad should probably be able to stay upright and not run into barbed wire fences before I go getting her into that.
Was she with you? Did she witness the?
She was not. Thank goodness. Yeah, we have yet to get her the full suspension princess bike. So
I can't tell you how many falls I've taken on the road bike in intersections. Completely embarrassing. Yeah, it's a normal rite of passage, even as an adult. It's not just reserved for kids. But man, that is awesome. That's good. That's good to hear that she's already getting on the bike and then getting back on the bike. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right.
Some of my favorite scars are from crashing what I called my pink Harley
Nice.
as a little tiny gal.
It was an actual motorcycle.
Yeah.
Though, right?
To be fair.
Small town, everybody up.
Yeah, you have the tattoos, so yeah, totally makes sense.
That's awesome.
So yeah, man, I'm super curious. How's training been going? How's running been going? Before we start getting into like the gear and stuff like that, I know that we have talked about it on the show before, but Transrockies coming up. What have you been doing specifically training for this, and like how's it been going? Trail running and that whole because it's like a whole door into the backcountry of Colorado for you. So how's that been going?
Well, so the first thing I should say is that, if you know Colorado at all, or pretty much this part of the West, Utah, I guess, would be part of it, but pretty particularly Colorado, is that this time of year is crazy rainy. So you've got this really just not great mixture of, in the high country, it's still snowed over, kind of 10,000 feet and below, it's been just mud. Like the trails, a lot of trails have been closed. And so you kind of have to play your days. When do I go and get on this trail? And then you've got to figure, well, as you know, Ethan, that, at the same time as you've got all these great trail shoes and you've got the necessity to train for a trail events, you really, to be honest, you don't want to be on the road. I mean, being on the road kind of sucks. However, no offense to road shoes, I've got tons of great road shoes to try out, but it's kind of, you've got this pressing thing kind of in the back of your mind saying Transrockies. And I've got a lot of kind of stepping stones, the way that this year has been set up, that have kind of poured into that. So at the same time as I miss days on the trail, I do get out on the road. I've got plenty of miles there. Here and there, I'll skip Stravaing it, just because Straving the road sometimes just annoys me, and Straving the trail does too. But you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, but the training in general is going very well. I'm ramping up kind of with the first thing is this coming weekend. I've got Ragnar Snowmass, which I'm actually doing with two people who may be listening right now, Lori and Chuck Hall. Lori, yeah. So Lori moved here to Denver, and she's been doing some reviewing for us, and that's really exciting. And so she and I go run all the time. And so we're doing this. Chuck is in the Navy. And so we are doing Ragnar Snowmass with a Navy buddy, Lori, and then me. And then our backup runner is there, Chuck and Lori's son, who is minutes faster per mile than the rest of us.
He's a speedy.
He's very speedy. But yeah, it's been going really, really well. And, one of those things was, I think I may have talked to you about this a while ago, was where I found myself at some point last year, where I forget how long ago exactly, but you're kind of going out and you're running for the sake of reviewing a shoe. And well, that's fine. Or a pack or a pair, we'll fill in the blank.
Right.
Well, that's fine. I found myself not really liking it as much until I said, look, let's just get out the door. And, I've got now my shoes, I've kind of arranged where things are. My in rotation shoes are kind of stacked on the stairs that come to the office here. Mm-hmm. And so I just throw on what I feel like wearing that day, what I feel like is appropriate for that particular trail or terrain or what have you. And I just kind of go for it. And having running be the primary goal of any particular workout rather than testing a product has really, even though there's zero difference, I mean, it's semantics.
Right.
But to me, it made this kind of paradigm shift where I was really able to kind of tackle that. And I started, and this is going to sound pluggish, but I don't mean it to be. I've never been like a yoga person, not that I am now. And I've never particularly been, except for when I try to imitate Kim when I'm on the rocks and I'm almost. But I heard a couple ads on some other podcasts about meditation apps, particularly the Headspace app. And Headspace I downloaded, and it's just, they kind of charge you right out of the gate a little bit more. But there's an equivalent, this app called Breathe. And again, if I do this in, you've got anywhere meditation cycles anywhere from 5 minutes to 45 minutes. You choose the length depending on what you want to do. And it's kind of guided meditation. I've been doing that. If I do it twice a week, awesome. If I do it more, extra awesome. And I find that when I get out on the trail, I'm kind of, it's this mindfulness thing of being aware, not just that, oh, geez, I feel like shit. I'm digging down. Why is my heart rate doing this? Why am I doing this? What's that large animal over there? I find myself kind of more able to be a little in touch. And I know that sounds a little hippy dippy and kind of antithetical to me, but I've really found that it has positively affected, not necessarily my running, but my approach to it and my experience. Do you know what I mean?
What you just described is a very similar feeling I think most trail runners get when they first start. You just described almost to the T kind of what kept me on the trails. I still, run roads. They're a necessity for certain workouts and stuff, but for the most part, you get to the trails and there's this sense of zen. I mean, yeah, not to get all hippy dippy out and stuff like that. It's totally fine. It's also kind of part of the sport, but having that mindfulness and having that ability to breathe, it's been a huge part of like my own work to deal with my own issues, like anxiety and stress on the trail and stuff I've talked about on the show many times. But just simply breathing and counting and doing really simple things that kind of put you in touch with where you are, what you're doing, and the environment around you. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's also kept me on the trails because it's fairly transcendent. For sure.
I will say that the downside is, and this is also part of the season here in Colorado, is that it is for real rattlesnake season. And I have seen more rattlesnakes this year than I have in all the years I've lived in Colorado combined. I've seen probably 15 or so rattlesnakes so far this year. And one high plains high plains milk snake, which looks like a coral snake, which, the rhyme, red on yellow, kill a fellow, red on black, poison lack. I saw one right in front of me. So the trouble is, if you get into this headspace of being very zen, it's one of those things where, as you know, you get to where you're not necessarily really paying that much attention to everything that's on the ground. Yep. You're like, oh God, it's a slithery death machine. And you have to kind of look up every now and then, I guess, is the moral of that.
We've had, a long run that we did before Sun Mountain. At Griffith Park, there are a lot of people, like kids, dogs. This park that's in the middle of Los Angeles, it's huge, but it's also very well attended by the masses of Angelinos. And I was coming down this fire road, just running, pretty fast, and I was coming around this turn, and there was a giant rattlesnake right in the middle of the trail. My first instinct is always, it's not a rattlesnake, it's a
bull snake.
A bull snake or a gardener snake or we call them something else. Oh, here, I forget. Gopher. Yeah, gopher snakes. Or they look exactly like rattlesnakes, but they don't have the rattle. So I'm kind of like, oh, it's just nope, that's a rattlesnake. Because you can see the giant rattle on the end. And I did one of those like jump over him things. And as soon as I jumped over him, I braked.
Sure.
And turned around and it started to do that retreat, sort of coiling on itself. And I'm like, I could have been dead. That would have been terrible. Yeah, they're a little scary out here for sure.
I actually saw a picture. I don't know if you posted it, Brandon, or it may have been Lori on a run that you guys went together of a rattlesnake. Yes. And I remember saying to Ethan that day, I think I told you, I was like, I think Brandon just posted this picture of this huge looking rattlesnake. And I actually didn't take into account that you guys have rattlesnakes
in Colorado.
There. Yeah.
Lots.
Snakes grow up in all mountains, I think.
I mean, they have an altitude limit, I think,
Okay.
But yeah, it was scary. I mean, and then I've also recently, so we're on Gearist. We did it last year. We did a thing on mountain lion encounters. What do you do? How do you handle it? And this year we're going to kind of expand on that. We're in the season of, we're going to be doing something on snake encounters, and both that and how you deal with it. What if you are bitten? If it's poisonous, how do you handle that? Because it's really kind of counterintuitive, because you want to stop. Your instinct is to run and haul ass out of there. But what you really want to do is stop and start to walk, because if you run, all you're going to do is accelerate the passage of this stuff around your body and what have you. But so we're also going to cover some other animals like bears and, particularly aggressive deer. I mean, that is happened from time to time, particularly if they're in rut or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm so masculine that I put out
deer. What is that?
That even
must mount
are afraid.
So with Transrockies being a 6-day stage race, we as a team, I think we have to stay within, I believe it's 2 minutes of each other. So we'll be essentially moving together the whole time, which I think is a huge benefit, because like I'll be using you a lot.
I could not agree more.
Forward.
Yeah.
Altitude is the thing I'm obviously most terrified about. You live in Boulder, which is what, at 8,000 ish?
No, 5.
5,000 feet.
Estes is 8.
Right. That's right. Estes Park up at 8. So are you finding yourself being able to get up to 8,000 feet for training? And is that something I need to look at doing?
Yeah, I was talking to Brian Metzler, the editor-in-chief of Competitor, and Brian has done Transrockies, and he actually may be doing it with Ian Adamson this year. I told him maybe we should make it interesting. Just,
Do a little gamble, perhaps.
Of course, Ian's calves could beat me alone, but so I talked to him, and I was like, well, I was talking. This is prior to today, obviously, and I was like, well, what would you be most concerned about if you were Ethan, if you were somebody who lived basically at sea level, and then you're coming out here, even if you get those, you get a weekend here or there where you can get up to altitude, go up Baldy or something like that. And he said, well, the concern isn't the vert. The vert is fine, but the trouble happens when it's the vert at the altitude. And you're right, it is at altitude because everything we do in Transrockies, the whole race is above 8,000 feet.
Yes.
But I've also talked to people who said that Transrockies as an event, and I have yet to go out there because, again, these are some of the trails that are just now melting out.
Right.
So they're closed. I mean, you simply can't run on a lot of these things. So some of these things, like the big day, the big vert day is day 2, right? The Leadville day.
Hope Pass, right? Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the mother. And I mean, that's essentially going to be a bunch of walking uphill. I mean, let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's so...
I don't think the mileage is big. I think it's a 13-ish mile
13
day.
or 14, yeah.
But you go over 12,000 feet.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so that's kind of something, I think that I've gotten, like yesterday, I think I was up around 75 or 8,000, give or take. I think, and I try to push it. I mean, from where I stand, what I try to do is, because you have these trails here, that there are a lot of things that are right in this window of 5,000 up to, I don't know. So let's say 5,000 to 7,000, give or take, right in there. And then there's nothing that kind of there's not nothing, but there are fewer things that bridge that gap up higher. So then what happens is you go up higher, and I'll tell you that, like, I did this was a few years ago, but I would go up to Estes. This person I was coaching with at the time, he would ask me to come up because my swimming background, and kind of work with some of the swimmers that he had up there that were in town for camps and what have you. And so I would go up to the pool in Estes Park, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm dying. Like, it's horrible. And I live at 5,000 feet and I'm going up to 8,000. So you wouldn't think it'd be that bad, but that gap is tough to overcome. I mean, right. And, again, that's what Brian touched on. And he said, do what you can. And I mentioned that you and I had briefly touched on, we haven't talked about it since, but that's simply semantics, being able to get you out here, and
what are you doing? What are you doing next week? Because as you're talking, I'm like, I gotta go out right now.
Well, I mean, bring it, man, anytime. I mean, that's the trick, is like, there are these things. This is the thing that concerns me. Like, since we're talking about concerns, altitude concerns me a little, but less than you, chiefly because I live at 5,000 feet. But the thing that concerns me is the consecutive days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. That's something that I'm also concerned about, because the only real, I do back-to-back long runs when training for the ultra stuff,
right?
But that's usually two big days back-to-back, and then you maybe a third or fourth day, but it's not a long day, right? So you might do like an 8, a 10, then a 20, then a 20. It's going to be a completely different beast. And from everyone I've talked to who's done it, as long as you're every day you have a really good time. You don't have a really sharp cutoff, so there's not
have big chunks of time
to do these distances, which I think is awesome.
Right.
And I have no problem like taking our time and saving it for day 4 or even day 5 or 6, because those days are also still very big. So yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to hurt. It's going to suck.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can't motivate each other to get through it.
Of course. And that's a big thing for me. I think that motivation and recovery are going to be the two biggies. And actually, I was kind of, after my long runs, I need to do a better job of foam rolling and what have you. So I will bring some massage oil for you to rub me down.
Right.
So there's
I'm
that.
sure everyone would love to see and hear all about that.
Hot.
Best part of Transrockies, oil massages.
Hot stone massage. So yeah, I mean, so recovery is something I'm trying to stay on top of. Like last night, I always have best intentions of like sleeping in compression tights and socks after a particularly hard run.
Mhm.
And then I get hot halfway through the night and like wind up in the morning naked with just socks on. It's really attractive. But compression, I think, is going to be a big deal in recovery. I don't generally wear, I'm not opposed to it. I usually don't wear compression during activity. It's after for me that I notice the biggest change. So, again, that's kind of the thing. And again, as much as I talked earlier about kind of getting into that a little more Zen place, yesterday, my run, it was this run that I really love. It's something that I feel very connected to. I love the route and all this, but I totally in my mind had that it was going to be, and I still don't really believe this, but I had in my mind that it was going to be around 15 miles and 14, 15. And I go out because there's this connector off the backside of this loop that really like descends a long way and then comes back up. And it beats the hell out of you, but it's just a whole bunch of descent and then ascent. And it was only like just under right at 12 miles. And I was like, son of a. So I also have those challenges where I need to get out of my head a little bit more and not be so concerned with mileage. It's kind of like you just got to go do work. You know what I mean? Do the work. Don't worry. Obviously, there's some consideration of mileage, but don't take so much into consideration that you start to focus on the mileage instead of the experience, or focus on the mileage instead of the time on your feet.
I was just going to say that came in handy more than anything when I did the Squamish 50-50, which is the 50 miler and the 50K the next day. Mm-hmm. That I was worried that my recovery between those would be impossible. Like after running 50 miles, you're going to be so wrecked that waking up and running another 31 miles the next morning, that's impossible. But really, where the biggest benefit I think I had came from spending more time on my feet than I expected. So the mileage could be 10 miles,
right?
But it could be a really difficult 10 miles, and you could be spending 4 or 5 hours out there, North Vancouver. And I think that time on feet and suffering and getting into your own headspace because you're like, oh my God, this is taking twice as long as I expected.
Yep.
That is huge when dealing with these sort of things. And the mental game for sure, man. I know that like I'm looking at these 6 days and I'm terrified. 3 days, I'm like, okay, the 3 day, that's totally digestible. But then you add another 3 days of tough runs. I'm going to rely on you. And I know that you're probably going to rely on me too, that we're going to have to just keep talking each other up. Like, oh man, it's just 5 more days. Just 5 more days of this. Don't worry. And keep doing that.
I love that camaraderie though. I really, really do, because I do so few. Again, I mentioned a second ago, I run a lot with Lori, and I don't think we've ever done a road run together. And it's really great to have somebody there to kind of, no matter what you're doing, honestly, even if it's like, hey, look at that flock of turkeys over there, or whatever group of turkeys is called, murder of turkeys, a business of turkeys. So look at those over there. And, just to be able to create that sort of take your mind off the run for a second or what have you. And honestly, I mean, I've started thinking about these little things like this is going to crack you up. Maybe I'd like to think I'm funnier than I actually am, but it cracks me up every time because within the first hour and a half of any run, I have to pee no fewer than 3 times. I don't know why.
Awesome.
You're an early pee stopper too.
I'm with you, man.
But then, honestly, it's one of those things where it's good for me to have somebody beside me because Lori, again, she and I were at this place called Devil's Backbone up here. Devil's Backbone is open. There's 0 shade. It was a particularly warm day. I had a pack that could hold 3 liters. I only brought like 1.5, was stupid. And we did like 12 miles, 11 or 12 miles. And it's really, really, really rocky up on top. So it's pretty technical and slows you down a lot. So anyway, we get to this point and she and I run together a lot. So she knows I'm going to have to go pee or whatever. But then I kind of stopped peeing. And it was something where she could say, hey, are you okay? And check in. And even if I know that's weird for me, Ethan, have you done poopy today? That's weird, right? But at the same time, to have somebody who kind of begins to learn your patterns.
It's weird when you look at me like that and say that. Like, now we're getting into weird territory. You got poopy? You got poopy?
Did you make?
That every day. I ask you every day.
That's our marriage,
Welcome
man.
to our morning.
Morning, Kim. Morning, Ethan. You got poopy? Oh boy.
Wow. It's like written on the mirror fog.
Yes. Chat room check in. Kim, what's going on in there?
Let's answer some of these questions because people have been very patient listening to the poopy stories. Goku Runner asks, what are your thoughts on those altitude training masks? Since you guys are both kind of talking about it, we are sea level dwellers.
Yeah. Marketing is amazing. I think they're garbage. Brandon, what do you think?
They're bullshit. What do they do? Because look, all they're doing is restricting your air intake. The mixture of oxygen to nitrogen to carbon dioxide remains the exact same.
Exact same.
You're not doing anything.
Totally. What else?
Jeffrey Perez asks, what shoes are you all rotating right now?
I feel like I knew this conversation was going to probably happen at some point in the show, just kind of transitioning into the gear talk and stuff. I'm rotating through a couple right now. Do you
want to save this or do you want?
Yeah, I'm gonna save it. Is that cool with you, Brandon? Just saving it for like a couple minutes.
Of course.
Cool. What else we got? And then we have more.
Speaking of training for Transrockies, Raul asks, Ethan, hill repeats at Baldy?
Jeez. We have a mountain here, Brandon, called Mount Baldy. It gets up to 10,400-ish feet, and it's tough. It is a hard ass climb. It's 6 miles up with about 6,000 feet of gain. So yes, I will have to summit Baldy at some point in this training just to get up to 10,000 feet. You can even camp out on top, which would be pretty cool.
Nice.
But yeah, definitely. And I'm actually serious about going to Boulder within the next 14 days, Brandon, because I think that would be awesome to get there and run with you.
Bring it, man. I mean, there are things to consider, like, because I was thinking about this on a run yesterday. I was like, well, look, when/if you come out, what do we do? Do we go and do portions of the course? Is it worth that? Because again, those might be closed or what have you. There have to be some kind of digital reconnaissance or reconnoitering to figure that out. Or do we go and try to run Mount Evans, which caps out at 14,000 plus feet, or run up Pikes, which again is 14,000 plus feet. I mean, what do we do? I mean, because there are plenty of trails, like the trail that I did yesterday, which was the Hall Ranch with this connector up to Button Rock. You could easily do 24 miles on that without touching road. And it's gorgeous, but is something like that worth more than going and doing a portion of the course? I don't know. Do you have an opinion on that?
I feel like it's probably going to require a couple of trips. I'm thinking I'm gonna want to come out in July.
Yep.
Getting out there at least that month before the race, and then probably being able to do more recon, hoping that the trails are more open. But I think for now, it would just be great to get some altitude, just get some lighter oxygen, and just let my body adapt. I know that the more times I visit altitude, the better my body adapts and the quicker it adapts. So I think just getting that started now would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, let's touch base on that. Not to bore these kind people with it.
Yeah. What else we got, Kim?
Another question from Raul. He asked, are there any gear requirements for Transrockies?
Ooh. I haven't
pulled up the page.
Yeah, I haven't gone through the full on checklist. What do you got? Oh yeah, mandatory gear.
Like there's some mandatory gear.
A jacket, a shell typer, waterproof,
gloves, emergency blanket,
gloves,
and then there's a whole list of like recommended gear. Yeah.
Right. So one of those things actually I was going to ask you about. There is you're provided with a tent, if I'm not mistaken, but you can bring a second tent. So I have tents for days, but what do you think about that? I mean, because again, this kind of comes back to that recovery. Is it worth, if they're going to give us a 2-man tent, let's just say, is it worth 2 not small human beings being in a tent and potentially, disturbing each other's sleep? I'm not a light sleeper, so that wouldn't really bug me. And I don't think we have to carry a tent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I believe they do it all. I mean, I'm all for it as long as the real estate, like we have a place to put that second tent. That might be nice, because I know that we're also talking about getting Kim to come to for some camera stuff and even some filming,
Yes.
like in the interloopal. I'm going to keep calling them interloopal, but the downtime essentially.
Right.
So I think that's definitely a logistic we can figure out.
Yeah.
I realize like we're getting close, and before we know it, it's going to be race day, and I'm going to be like, oh wait, where do I fly? Like, how do I get there?
Taking all these trips to Colorado. I'm like, do you know our schedules?
No, I don't.
A couple months.
Kim's like our scheduling mastermind. So I say, yeah, I'm coming to Boulder tomorrow. Kim's gonna be like, dude, no.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it later. But I mean, again, if you even need to come during the middle of the week, it doesn't have to be on a weekend or anything, you know. So just keep that in mind.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just saw this in the chat room, but look out for the snorers. If you've learned anything camping in a public campground or going to concerts where there's camping, like for groups, you know to bring earplugs, and you know to train in earplugs nights leading up to those, just so you get comfortable and you can fall right asleep. Trust me, earplugs are going to be a necessity, I think, for this, because Brandon and I aren't the only two running Transrockies. I think there's quite a few other people running it, and I believe the parties get a little crazy in between days. So I know that it's gonna be quite noisy. Any other questions before we move into gear?
The rest of the questions are pretty gear based.
Okay, so cool. Transition time. We'll start with that question that Kim brought up.
What shoes are you guys currently cycling through?
Brandon, what I know that you review stuff all the time. You also have other reviewers going through various products. What are you rotating through currently?
So personally, actually, I'll bring up something that I'm really leaning toward being one of my Transrockies shoes because I loved it so much. I've already reviewed it, but I'm trying to keep it in the rotation, which is kind of hard with so many shoes
for sure.
Rotation.
Yeah.
The Salomon wings, the S-Lab wings. I love this shoe. This new Conta grip is spectacular. So
monster. Yeah.
I mean, I really like this shoe a lot. And so that's kind of sort of tangentially in the rotation, if you will. The Pearl Izumi EM Trail N3. Lots of push.
N or M?
N.
How do you feel about those?
There's a lot of cush. It's more cushion than I normally reach for. It's surprisingly light for how much it is. Not quite as light as like a Hoka or something like that. And it's okay. I felt like, so I wore this yesterday on that run, and I feel like one of the interesting things about this, and I don't know why, I haven't quite pinpointed this thing yet, and that is, why do I feel like I don't want to tighten it so much? And I don't know why. So what happens is I don't get rub spots. Again, there were zero comfort problems yesterday, just some sand and stuff would come in over the top, but that's no big deal. But there was still movement inside. So I wasn't quite as connected to the shoe from a lockdown standpoint. And then I was separated by a lot of cushioning on this. I mean, Pearl's, EM Emotion line shoes have a lot of foam anyway, or kind of stiffness sometimes anyway in that foam. And so I still like the smooth ride. It's not as noticeable on a trail as it is on a road, unless it's really buffed out stuff. Yeah. But in general, I like it. I mean, it does well by me. I wouldn't necessarily reach for it as my go-to because I tend toward things that are a little more low, not necessarily drop, but stack. But yeah, solid all around shoe, generally speaking. And this guy, the Speedcross Pro, which is, I guess, the pro equivalent of the new Speedcross 4 that's coming out, or is out, or is coming out. Again, that new Conta grip rubber. I did not review our review of the Speedcross 3. Somebody else did that. So I'd never run in a Speedcross until this shoe. And so I'm really digging on this. It's narrow. If you have a wide foot, you might not fit it quite that well. But I love it. I mean, it's obviously built for some pretty technical stuff. Does good stuff. I really like the retention system. Again, I feel like that's one of those things where you have to kind of get used to it, because Solomon, if you don't dial it, if you don't do it enough, you're going to be like, oh, this is too tight, or oh, this is too loose. Oh, it's slipping. But I feel like once you've got that kind of nailed, it's easy to deal with. And the final shoe that is a road shoe, this is the Nike Free RN. Flyknit, free Flyknit for RN something. There you go. I love this thing. It's ridiculous. It's the new one. We have this and a Lunar Epic, which I don't have in here right now. The Lunar Epic is ridiculous. The high collared thing is a little weird to get used to, but if you wear higher socks, sometimes it's not that big a deal. But Flyknit to me is like, when it comes to uppers that aren't trying to be waterproof or whatever, the Flyknit is like the end all. I mean, the fit is so custom. Yeah, if you've got a wider foot, it's going to feel snug. Even if you don't have wider foot, it feels kind of snug at first, but it feels snug in the way that when you put on bike shorts, they feel snug, and then they feel like part of your body. I love that. So these are four of there are several other shoes that are up on the staircase right now that I cannot think of. But yeah, those are kind of, the Hayate 2 from Mizuno, kind of a little after that came out, but we're working on that one. So yeah, so there's and a bunch of things from Skechers, not Strava, Forza, the Go Run 4, and something else that I can't. The Go Meb Speed 3 2016.
All of those are really like solid shoes. You were talking about Salomon, and Salomon are notoriously narrow, but they're built to be rugged. And the Speed Cross 3 is one of my most popular reviews that I did years ago. It still gets comments, and people still talk about it like, oh, this is the shoe I ran X race in, and it's the best thing ever. And I'm super excited to see the new version, try the new version, and the Pro version. It's always like a really great go-to for weather, technical stuff. It suffers a bit in the real buffed out things, but it's not built for that. They have other shoes like the Sense Pro and all those shoes that are built more for buffed out stuff. The Wings, for example, is a good example.
Great
and the Pearl Izumi. We were talking about this. The EVA, for some reason, in those shoes seems to be a lot stiffer than what we anticipated this season.
I was curious to see what you had to say, because I actually received a pair of the Pearl Izumi Trail N3s.
Same as a Nancy.
Right. And I haven't fallen in love with them. And I don't know if it's because I run in Hoka's like 90% of the time. So for some reason, the N3s, as much as they're meant to be kind of a cushier shoe, they'll kind of feel a little like clunky and hard to me. I'm like a little heavy.
Yeah, I think though, and I can get that. But where I kind of take Pearl from the first time I tried an Emotion Line shoe with their original N1. Well, I personally have never tried any of their M shoes because I stay neutral. We stay neutral in general at Gearist about 90% of the time. But the first thing that I noticed about that shoe, it's still one of my favorite shoes of that line, is that the foam is super firm, but they're going for biomechanical cushioning instead of material cushioning. And I feel like there is a middle ground, like that, the Nike Free RN that I just pulled up, that kind of goes and splits a difference or kind of doubles down on it. You've got the shape that's really smooth, and you've got the material that's really cush. And apart from the technology, where the sole kind of spreads open like that. But yeah, you're right with the Pearl. I mean, if you're looking for something that's going to provide that kind of biomechanical cushioning, I feel like it's there, but you kind of have to look for it. And I feel like if you have to look for it, you might as well be in one of their slightly lower drop shoes, because the cushioning really isn't a whole lot different between like the N2 Trail, or I haven't tried the most recent N1 Trail, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's not a whole bunch of difference.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of the N2s and the N1s. I ran in those for, since they came out, and I really like them, and I was really hoping to love the N3.
Yeah, it wasn't what I anticipated it was supposed to be, but then, I'm not the designer of the shoe, so
and what you're saying makes sense as far as like the difference of like what kind of cushioning they're actually providing you.
Right.
A lot of passionate shoe owners in the chat room. You gotta try the Hoka Challenger 18. It's like, yeah, we reviewed them and we love them. We run multiple races in them. As far as potentials for me, this one I don't think is on the market yet, but it's the Ultra Lone Peak 3.0. This is their new version of the Lone Peak. Again, it's super cushioned, zero drop, wide 4-foot foot shaped shoe. I ran the Sun Mountain in this. Didn't have to change. Only really got a little bit of foot ache towards the end of the race, and that's just because you're on your feet for 9 hours. It was pretty solid. I was like ready to run the next day, and obviously that's not a shoe. That's not a shoes doing as much as it is just being well trained or pacing yourself properly. But I definitely think being in a shoe that kept my feet fresh and not blistered was a huge contributing factor. And Brandon, I'm sure you either have these in rotation or have seen them or touched them. But the Ultra Fly from Topo is the one that they just sent me. It was like a surprise delivery. I didn't even expect to get this one, but
I've been told that ours are here this week sometime.
It's a really interesting shoe. So a lot of the Topo stuff I was finding was kind of going the way of Pearl Izumi, where they talk about it being the high cushion version of their shoe, and you try it on and go, it's actually stiffer than what you would expect, and it's really heavy and stuff like that. But this one, I didn't expect. I didn't know it was coming, and I looked at it. I was like, this looks like a really high cushioned Topo, more than their Magnafly, and the Ultra Fly has a lot of cushioning and it's super soft. And I've been running a little bit in it and really liking it. It has a very unaggressive outsole. That's one of the major issues I have with it, is that it could potentially be a fantastic technical trail shoe, but it looks like a road shoe.
I was just gonna say it looks like a typical road shoe.
Typical road shoe. It's got some pods of the outsole rubber and stuff like that, which I think limits its flexibility, but also this has the potential to be a really awesome trail shoe. Bit heavy though. Obviously one of the major downsides. It's a heavy shoe. But I was looking at maybe even using this, depending on the weather, because I'm sure you can tell me more than I would know. But summer weather, August weather in Colorado Rockies?
Typically hot and dry. I mean, you might run into storms here or there, but especially in the high country, but typically just hot and dry. And I mean, well, and again, this is one of those things that I even have to look into, but I'll tell you that down here at 5,000 feet, it's, you'll have 110 degrees during the day and you'll have 50 degrees at night. So it's not uncommon to have a 40-degree plus temperature swing. I mean, that might be a bit aggressive, but up there, obviously you're going to have a little bit, it's going to be a little bit different. It's generally going to be cooler, but it'll also be cooler at night. So, but typically pretty dry. I mean, that's kind of the time of year that most of the snow is gone, give or take. And everybody starts worrying about, are we going into drought, which we shouldn't be because of how much snow we had this year. Because generally that's how Colorado is pretty cyclical. It's not one of those things where it's like rainy all year. It's like rain here and rain here. And that's pretty much it. So
that's interesting. For some reason, I mean, growing up in the Northwest, you get summer months where those are your sunny months, but you go up into the mountains and that's the day that it snows randomly, like August. That whole week is for some reason snowing in the mountains. So I was like, oh yeah, Colorado, it'll be sunny, but maybe you'll get a snowstorm or that kind of thing. But
I mean, it's not unheard of, but typically above 10,000 feet kind of seems to be a benchmark of where the snow happens. You're not going to really see that until later on in September. I mean, I'll give you an example, Long's Peak, which if you want some really hardcore altitude training, good Lord, Long's Peak is 14,259 feet.
No big deal.
It is the highest peak in Rocky Mountain National Park and is also one of the most technical. They don't call it a hike at all. They call it a climb, because once you come through this keyhole, you're on they have these sections of the trail. And the only way you can really recognize where you're going is they painted these bullseyes,
big blazes,
about a foot in diameter, that you can see one boulder to the next. And because you'll be on sections which is 18 inches wide. To your left is the mountain, and to the right is a 2,000 to 3,000 foot drop.
No big deal.
Into nothing. So, I mean, it's a climb. And so, you'll go up there, and I did that last year in, I think, August, and doing my research, I was like, they said, look, you need to be off the summit by 11 a.m. because you can have in August legit winter storms roll in and you'll have 15 minutes of notice going, oh shit, look at that. And then 15 minutes later, it's on you. And there's nothing you can do. And then the problem becomes, well, how do you get down? Because it's really technical. But it took me a long time to do that hike / climb. But the record is something like 2 hours, which I don't understand. I cannot grasp that. It took me like the better part. If you took away the pauses to sit down and eat something, kind of take pictures and whatever, it took the better part of 10 hours. And the record is 2.
Yeah, I think there's actually some videos of Anton Kripke and Kilian Jornet just like meandering up Long's Peak.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal. Like it's not a huge issue, and like that's crazy. I can't even fathom that. Just your description of it is like, okay, that's something you got to build up to, obviously.
Yeah.
Very excited though to finally get to touch some of these huge mountains that you only see pictures and videos of, and where legends have gone up and done these trails. And Transrockies, I think this is the 10th year anniversary of this race happening, so really excited about that. Questions, babe? I know you got some questions.
Yeah, we have a couple more shoe questions. Something vegan asks, in general, do you think it's okay to buy shoes that work for you over and over again, or is it better on the body to switch it up?
Brandon and I have been switching shoes
yeah,
probably every day for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
That's a tough question to answer. I am in favor of rotation purely because having done that, it's worked for me. Like I feel I get a really great general experience of every shoe, and I'm beginning to know. Even today, I'm still working on figuring out what exactly works for me, and every shoe has a little bit different characteristics. So I like that. I think it's a benefit to continue to kind of find and tweak what works for you. What about you, Brennan?
I agree. To be honest, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic in saying this, and Ethan, I'm curious to see your thought on this. I think that if you and I walked into Payless right now, not joking at all, walked into Payless or Target or Walmart and picked up a pair of whatever they consider a running shoe, we could go out and probably have a pretty reasonable 5-10 mile run in that with not much problem. Now, we wouldn't necessarily be like, this is the greatest thing ever, but I would bet you that it wouldn't be a big deal. You know, it's because rotating, I feel like you don't get into this static slump of, oh, I was talking to this person yesterday, I've worn gel Kyonos for, the past 10 years. And I'm like, really? Why? I mean, and it's $160 shoe. And I was like, but what if you like something else? Now, the flip side of that coin is that if you like something, I'm a big proponent of running what you like.
Yeah.
Don't try to, no pun, shoehorn yourself into something that you don't like just because it's the new hot thing. Find something you like and go with it. But then rather than finding that thing that you like being a shoe or a brand, maybe it's the profile of the shoe. So maybe it's like, I like a shoe with this, 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 and this, as opposed to I like only Asics, only where there's gel in the heel, but not in the forefoot, only where there's a 10+ millimeter drop, yada, yada, yada. I prefer to look outside the box like that. So it is, like you said, that's a tricky question, particularly, I mean, if you're going to find two people that have a hard time answering that question, it's probably going to be you and me and among other people.
I think you touched on something that's actually really important, and I've talked about it very briefly, I think, in past episodes. It probably gets glossed over. Just the fact that we have a lot of people that are very passionate about a very specific shoe or a specific shoe brand, and they will swear that this is the brand that you need to own, you need to buy, this is it. I'll be honest. I think that's a terrible way to look at things. I think that closes you off to really to potential greatness in other shoes, because shoes are constantly evolving. The same model of a shoe will evolve with each generation. Some will like one, some won't like another. But to pigeonhole yourself into a specific brand, or even furthermore into a specific shoe, I think you're just asking for trouble.
Yep.
I highly recommend. Let's say you've been running and people are talking about the Peregrine 6s in the chat room. I am going to review them. Trust me.
People really want to do that.
Trust me, it's a shoe that's been on my list for so many years, but Saucony just, they're resistant to send me shoes because they know I'm honest. But I'm working with Running Warehouse now, and so hopefully Running Warehouse will be able to hook me up with a pair. Trust me, guys, this has been in the works for a long time. And I will not stop being honest. So, hopefully Saucony gets over it. But if you are running in the Peregrine 6 and you run it for every month for 5 years, whatever, I highly recommend maybe every 6 months, every year, going to your local running store and just trying on everything, because the shoes rotate with new seasons, the new varieties come in. It is just going to be beneficial. Or going to a website like Running Warehouse or something like that, where you can buy a boatload of shoes and they have a really good return policy. Find out if any of them work for you. Return those that don't. I'm sure they're probably going to hate that I even said that. But the fact is, shoes change all the time. I highly recommend you try different things because, like Brandon said, It might not be the brand you like. It might be the profile. It might be the last. It might be that Strobel board, the technique that they use to attach it to the EVO. Whatever it is, it could be something that another shoe is also utilizing that you would like even more so.
Right. And to that kind of same point, the Peregrine, I did the 5 and now the 6. So the Peregrine 4 kind of got ripped a little bit by some people. I didn't try it, but for being a little stiff, they were like, oh, well, it's stiff. It didn't stick that well because it was stiff. It couldn't kind of mold to the rock. But then I got into the 4 and I was like, or the 5, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great shoe. And then I get into the 6. I'm like, which I don't want to skew your review, but is spectacular in my opinion. But the point is that even within that, if you get hung up on a shoe being bad, it's the same thing, is no different than a shoe being great in your mind. You get hung up on being bad and you're like, I'm never touching the Peregrine 5 or 6 on and on and on because the Peregrine 4 was too stiff for me or what have you. And specifically somebody brought up in the chat room, I think they said Kinvara for trail, which to me is a large portion of what the Peregrine 6 is. But I mean, again, don't get I guess the basic point that I'm trying to say, and I think you're probably right there too, is don't pigeonhole anything, good or bad. Just be willing to try all these things and find out what works for you. Yeah, the budget thing is tough to get around. But again, like Ethan said, there are a bunch of great Roadrunner Sports is another one that has a great return policy. Zappos actually has a really good return policy, but I don't know what theirs is relative to things having been running.
Right. I don't either. Yeah. A running specific website usually tends to be a little bit more forgiving, I guess. And I don't know their full policies on that kind of stuff. I just saw something here in the chat room about each review being specific to the user wear. I think that's a bullet point that both Brandon and I have talked about in our websites or on our reviews. I am one pair of feet. Brandon is another pair of feet. Brandon and I have disagreed on reviews, and it's obvious that because we just prefer different things. And I remember the Peregrine 1. I actually ran in the Peregrine 1 for about 6 months, and I hated them because everyone was like, oh, it's the Kinvara for trail. And I was like, no, it's not. It's garbage for trail. I think the shoe has evolved, and I just haven't tried it since. So I am excited to try it, and I know that Brandon really likes it. So that makes me very excited. Kim, we've been missing questions. What's happening?
Do we want to stick on shoes or do we want to move on?
What is there something to move on to? Because I could talk about shoes for days.
There's a lot of chatter about hydration packs, what we use, what you guys would recommend.
We can talk about gear, like maybe gear that we're going to be using for Transrockies potentially. Yeah. Brandon, I know you've been reviewing hydration packs, and I saw that you were rocking a Nathan one there for a while. What are you currently going through?
So we actually have a few in rotation for Nathan that I'm not reviewing. I'm trying to kind of limit myself because, again, this is one of those things where kind of just to pile onto the shoe conversation, I feel like I need to limit myself because if I'm to find something that I really like that's going to potentially be chafing my shoulders for 6 days, I need to know what that is. And so I've got three packs that I'm dealing with right now. One is I'm going to mess the name up. You might know better than that. The Solomon S-Lab Sense, the one you guys had in the laundry.
The 5L. We just call it the 5L.
Is it a 5L? It's with just the 2 bottles.
Nothing. So no pack. No, nothing on the back.
No bladder.
So that's not the 5L. It's not the 12L.
Yeah, if there's no pouch on the back, that's the Sense Ultra set, I believe.
There is a pouch, but it's not built necessarily to hold. I guess you could put hydration in there if you wanted to.
What color is it?
Black.
Okay, so it's either the Sense Ultra set or the Sense set.
I think it's the Sense Ultra set.
I believe it's the Sense Ultra set.
So that I like, but front bottles are a new-ish thing for me. Typically right there, I'll have a camera in my phone or Goose or what have you. So I really like that pack. Super, super lightweight. Getting used to having front bottles is a new thing, especially soft flasks, because that's just kind of an animal unto itself to some degree. I'm also using the one that you saw, the Vapor Cloud, the Nathan. I really like that pack. It fits well. I can get it. What I find is that packs expand as they get sweaty, and I sweat like a whore in church. So it gets was inappropriate.
Woo, doozy. Ooh, this church. Ooh, I'm a whore.
So, is that your horror impression?
Apparently, that's my horror impression.
So I find that they expand, a little bit. Not the volume, but I need to tighten down as I go. So that one, I just have it kind of dialed. So that I like that. It holds 2 liters. And then the Caprichka, the Mountain Vest 3.0, the UD.
Yep. UD 3.0, yep.
Love that thing. It's tons of storage, super lightweight. It's supposed to only hold a 2-liter bladder, but I have an Osprey Pax 3-liter bladder. And what's cool about this bladder is that it's got like a rigid back, and by back I mean the part up against your back. So it's got like a plate. It's not rigid, but it's semi-rigid, and then it's got like a spine that runs down the other side. So it's this. I can fit 3 liters in this huge mouth that you put water into. So I can fit 3 liters of water into that thing in a pack that's only supposed to hold 2. And so those are kind of the 3 that are in my rotation right now for hydration. And I will say this is I just drank out of this, and I did a written review for this video, be coming soon. The vapor bottle bag. Do you have one of these?
I think we got one. We got a pack of like various Nathan items. We also got the soft bottles. So
this is by bottles. Vapor is the company.
Oh, that's Vapor. Oh, okay.
Well, so what's cool about this is this 3-layer BPA free, whatever, all that stuff. But what's cool about this is they've developed one of these where there's a kit where you can put it on and throw it in your pack.
Oh, cool. You can turn it into a hydration bladder. Exactly.
And I'm really looking forward to trying that. And they have a filter head that would attach to that, so you can basically have it filtered and what have you. So, those are kind of what I'm going for. And even on runs where I don't feel like hydration is necessary, I've been using a pack simply because I need to get used to, again, I got to have something there. I feel like now when I go out and run without something on, I feel like what's like I'm not wearing pants or something. I'm like something's missing, Yeah,
and especially with the longer runs, like the 20+ mile runs out there. I know guys and girls that run out there with a bottle, single handheld, or 2 handhelds, and that's all they really need because they also have pockets and stuff in the shorts. When it starts getting into those longer days, or even if there are aid stations, it's just nice to trust that you have what you need in case some like shit hits the fan. To be totally honest, it's good to have that buffer. As far as packs that you guys might have seen my recent Vapor Air review, the Nathan Vapor Air, which is, I think, the most minimal version of the Vapor series. You were on the Vapor Cloud. Is that what you said, Brandon?
That's what I did. And then we've got a couple other packs that are in rotation. I don't know what those are off the top of my head.
And then I've reviewed pretty much every Solomon pack, which is still, even after having it for years, it's still my go-to pack. It's most likely what I'll use at Transrockies, but I do have some new packs coming in, including the new Nike Kiger vest, which I'm very excited about because that's been in years of development. So I know a lot of the Nike Elite have been using it and like it. And then also Innovate. Innovate has some hydration pack innovations, which I'm pretty excited to test out. But again, this is one of those things that the packs, a little bit less so than shoes, but a lot of people have their favorites or their favorite brand. And I think the one thing that there's basically 2 things I look for in a hydration pack. Do the straps on the front allow you to breathe? Because I think one of the biggest drawbacks of a lot of packs is that they use static webbing to attach the chest sleeves or whatever, which blows my mind that you would use static webbing. But having the ability to kind of stretch, it kind of adapts to your body. I think that's key, and having multiple adjustment straps. The second thing is chafing. So Brandon is spot on. You don't want something to bug you for 6 days. Running an ultra in a single item is usually fine because you can get that chafe, and you can usually just kind of push through it, knowing that once you finish your race, you can take it off and everything's fine. In this case, every day you're going to be removing the item, putting it back on, and all your scabs are going to be removed again. It's a terrible thing. So making sure that the pack does not chafe is crucial in this race for sure. What other questions we got?
People were asking what we were drinking, and I just disclosed what we were drinking. A few people were freaking out.
Kim and I were sharing a Pliny the Elder. Brandon, were you partaking in anything tonight?
Yeah, man. Glenlivet 12. single malt.
Ooh. Classy.
In my tenor Metropolitan Opera glass.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
We should have gone like full on Scotch whiskey style, but the Pliny the Elder will have to do.
I think
it's pretty damn good.
Fancy.
That's not the bottle we drank out of, but that is what we're drinking. What else? Anything else in the chat room?
Let's see. Eric asked, running my first 50 miler in Georgia the end of September, what would you recommend for rain gear?
Oh man.
Like your recommendations on waterproof jackets?
Sure. Yeah. I was like, I don't know the weather in Georgia. That doesn't matter because that's not what he's asking.
What month was that again?
September in Georgia.
It's hot.
I'm assuming wet and hot, like super muggy, humidity high.
So that's the problem with some rain jackets. They just don't really breathe.
They don't breathe well. So I was going to recommend, this is the one that Brandon and I have actually talked about on the show before. The OR Helium 2 is a spot on waterproof jacket, but the breathability factor is fairly low. It's meant for colder climates as a shell. It's very light. It's packable. If you are willing to get wet and it's not going to be cold, you would look for just the lightest layer possible. Really, if it's not going to get cold, then just assume you're going to be soaking wet.
Yeah, Eric's saying it's hot
and wet. So do you need a jacket? I think that's the question. Do you need one?
Yeah, man. I would just get soaked in rain. Aside from this, it's like this. If you put on a jacket, if you sweat anything near me, you're going to just create this salty, briny disgustingness inside that jacket. Whereas if you've got rain coming down over you, potentially, that might actually be rinsing some of that salt away. So salt will break your skin down like crazy, So I would do that.
Sandpaper.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. I've been running in twice. I wore it today, actually. It's called the Odin minimalist jacket from Helly Hansen. It's not cheap. It just kind of got reduced. Now it's about $175. Spectacular, super, super lightweight, very breathable, more lightweight than the OR Helium 2. I love the OR Helium 2. And this thing is just kind of on a different level of minimalist, but it's also much more pricey. But it's a spectacular jacket for how lightweight it is and waterproof and all the other proofs,
Yeah. I at this point, I would say if it's going to be hot, just wear as little as you possibly can and just assume the rain is going to help you cool off, if anything. Yeah, I don't think you would even need a rain jacket. What else?
I'm with you. What else?
It's kind of like wearing a rain jacket when you're scuba diving. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. Great example.
Running in Vancouver, we have so much rainy weather up there. I didn't actually own a rain jacket until I lived down here. I don't know why, but I never ever ran in a rain jacket. It's just, if it's warm enough, just get wet.
Yeah.
That's my thought on it.
If you guys have any gear questions or anything like that for Brandon or I, please go ahead and ask them away. We are actually we passed over the hour thing, so that's actually a good indication that to move into the post show where we can answer these questions more rapid fire. So just to kind of recap, Brandon and I are running Transrockies at the beginning. I think it's like the second week of August.
9th through the 16th.
9th through the 16th. I should probably put that on my calendar. It is a 6-day stage race, all in the Rockies of Colorado. It's supposed to be incredibly beautiful, amazing, very well put together, very excited about it. It's the 10th anniversary of that race. And Brandon, if you're cool with it, I think we should make some videos.
I would love to make some video. You mean leading up to it?
Leading up and during.
Hell yeah, man. Let's do it. I'm going to have a hard time stepping up to your level. But if you guys are cool with like Snapchat videos from me, we can do that.
More puppy face.
Yeah, lots of puppies.
I actually have one more really good question
before we
close
go
out the show.
Sure.
Chris Fargo asked, Brandon, have you tested any hair clippers? Need something good to shave that shit off Ethan's face.
I would tell you, I haven't had my hair cut in years because I shaved my own face and head and whatever. Just go get some wall clippers, man. Also, hedge clippers will work.
Had to ask it.
Do you ever watch what are we doing in the chat room right now? Chris, go back to bed. It's past your bedtime.
Do you ever watch that episode of there's a show called The Goldbergs and the mom in the show like flips?
Haven't seen it.
It's great. She clips her husband's nose hairs while he's asleep because she's like, otherwise, how do you stay so well groomed? So you're just gonna wake up one morning and Kim will have been there like meticulously snipping your hair very close overnight.
I like the beard.
Kim likes it. I think there is a fine line between it's out of control and keeping things fairly trim.
As long as it doesn't like smell or have food stuck in it, I'm okay with it. But you're getting like dangerously close.
We're 1 for 2 on that, so that's not so bad. And Chris Vargo, thanks for watching the show. Really appreciate it, buddy. Really appreciate your concise comments. Yeah, I love a good ball bust from a Vargo. We also need to go back to Flagstaff too, which is another 8,000 foot region, which is beautiful and great for high altitude training.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna move into the post show. If you guys have questions, residual questions for both Brandon or myself, or even Kim, go ahead and ask them in the chat room. Kim's going to kind of pull those aside as we move into the post show, where we just usually talk about gear. I'll be honest, Brandon and I just end up talking about shoes. Mondays are always our favorite night of the week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in live. Again, my breast. Wow, my breast tonight was Brandon Wood.
Wow,
you guys are very close already.
The nicest breast, by the way. He's one of my favorite breasts. Brandon, remind people, where can they find you? Where can they subscribe? Where can they see all of your good reviews?
You can go to gearist.com. It's everything else is /Gearist except for Twitter, which is the Gearist, since there's some 12-year-old kid in Vietnam sitting on Gearist. So youtube.com /Gearist. Instagrams.com /Gearist, everything /Gearist. We will be, I doubt that this will affect anybody listening right now, but we will be moving servers later this week, which is a good thing. But that also means that, as I'm sure anybody who's moved servers know, that the chance for screw ups is high.
98% usually.
98%. So I've been working with a really great hosting company to make this good, to kind of improve things, get us onto some solid state drives and stuff like that. So a little semantics, but everything /Gearist except for Twitter, and tell that douche hole to get off of /Gearist on Twitter.
What a douche, that douche hole. Go subscribe to Brandon. His reviews and videos are super comprehensive, very educated, and he has a good variety of reviewers too now doing stuff. Highly recommend. And with Transrockies coming up, and both Brandon and myself training for it and doing the race itself, we're going to have content across the channels, which I'm really excited about, in some capacity, which it's going to be pretty cool. I'm definitely planning on documenting as much of the race as possible. And I haven't decided if I want to do like 6 separate videos. Each video is a day, or some huge comprehensive thing. I don't know. Well, Brandon and I are going to plan it once I get over to Boulder, and we'll let you guys know what happens. Don't forget, there's a new Ginger Runner album, which is always weird to say, but all the music from my running videos over the last 2 years put into a collective album that is available on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, all that stuff. Just search for Canterbury, Ginger Runner Canterbury. The link is also in most of the descriptions of all the videos in the last week or so. Highly recommend you guys go get it. It also helps keep the lights on and the mics hot. If you don't want to buy the album, or you just want to listen on Spotify or something, which does not benefit the artist at all, consider joining Patreon, patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, that helps everything happen here. It helps us editing and making the videos and keeping gear coming in and stuff like that. So consider that. And there's some cool stuff happening this week over on Patreon, which I'm very excited about. If you are already a Patreon supporter, you help make this happen. So thank you. Thank you from both Kim and myself. In the meantime, we'll see you guys next week, Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for Ginger Runner Live. And stick around, because we'll do the post show with Brandon, a.k.a. the Gearist, starting. Oh, hi, Chris Fargo. Thanks again for coming. Stick around for the post show. We'll start that right about now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay!
Woo!
This is always like my favorite part with Brandon. So how do you really feel about peregrines, Brandon?
Well, let me tell you.
What we had some questions. That's how you pulling some stuff aside.
Yeah, and Chris Fargo did say he actually
did like it. I saw that.
Beard,
I saw that. A huge congratulations to Chris Fargo. He and Alicia Shea got engaged.
Woohoo!
A week ago. I think it was a week ago.
It was Sun Mountain.
It was just
weekend,
after Sun Mountain weekend. So huge congratulations to Chris Fargo and Alicia
and
Shea.
Huge congratulations to Katie and Dom.
Oh yeah, Katie
for getting married.
Katie to Splinter Grossman, and now no, Dominic Grossman and now Katie DeSplinter Grossman got married on Saturday, and I was very honored to be the officiant. I've never done it before, and when they asked, I was like, no. But then they described it's not that difficult, please do it. And I was like, oh, of course. It was an honor. It was really, really cool. What a great wedding. And they are also former guests of the show. They've been on the show a couple of times. They're awesome. Los Angeles runners, very talented runners, and very excited to see them tie the knot. Totally deserving.
Her maiden name was DeSplinter?
DeSplinter.
Like DeSplinter that lives in DeSewer with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
the Michelangelo and the Donatello. And
I'd like to apologize to everyone listening.
Dad joke.
That was a dad joke, Brandon.
Thank you.
Dad joke. I have found myself editing jokes. So like someone at the store will say something like, oh, cool beard. And some joke will come into my head and I'll think about it. I'll go, oh, that's hilarious. But I won't say it because as soon as I think about it, I go, oh, no, that's a dad joke. I say that and everyone's like, oh, haha, real funny. And then they talk about you behind your back because it's a dad joke. So yeah, good dad joke, Brandon.
Thanks. You guys are planning on having kids. That pretty much removes that filter. So good luck.
All right, what we got, babe?
Okay. Dustin quickly asked, why not have a stability trail shoe? Earlier, you guys were talking about, I think Brandon said most of the shoes happening at a Gearist are neutral. So I think that was the question, like, why not have a stability shoe as part of your arsenal?
We've talked about this, Brandon. Go for it.
This is a big conversation.
Huge.
So,
I know.
So here's my theory in a nutshell about shoes in general, not necessarily just trail shoes. There are plenty of shoes out there that are stability shoes for trail, particularly the Leadville 1210 V2, V3 from New Balance is a stability shoe while it's very minimal. The first thing is that I believe that our bodies are built to function unless you have I'm not going to even try to be PC about this. So if you've got a problem with it, I apologize. If you've got a deformity or you've got something that is not natural happening with your body, our bodies are built to act the way that they're built. Okay. The way that they happen, the way that we evolve, our bodies function that way. So if you pronate, if you supinate, if you're dead neutral, the rest of your body up the kinetic chain will account for that somewhere along the way. What happens is, in my opinion, that strength goes out the window. And I think that strength can fix 99% of the things out there in normally bodied people that don't have any issues like Charcot-Marie-Tooth syndrome or something like that, where there are actual nervous disorders that are going to affect the biomechanics of the foot, up the kinetic chain, rheumatoid arthritis, things like this. Those are outliers to what I'm talking about. So I will not account for those. In every other situation where people just have generally normal bodies, whether you have a shortened first metatarsal or a raised first metatarsal, which is going to cause pronation, you can fix pronation just by doing a little bit of strength work, particularly on your gluteus medius, that small triangular top muscle at the top of your butt, or working on your lower core muscles, your hip flexors, working on a little bit more knee drive. Things like that are going to account for large amounts of that. And then the problem becomes people get into a stability shoe and then they put an orthotic on top of that, and particularly a stiff orthotic that's not going to do anything. It's going to it's a cast, because a cast is what immobilizes the load-bearing portion of any limb, right? Doesn't necessarily immobilize the whole thing. So if you immobilize your foot, for lack of a better kind of analogy, you do the same thing as putting a cast on your leg for 6-8 weeks. You atrophy those muscles. They can't work. So then you're working backward. And the problem is we go, well, here's some shit under my foot, and here's some more shit under my foot, and here's some more shit under my foot. And here I got to count for this, and now I've injured this, so I got to do this. And you never start at zero. And while I'm not necessarily, there's a lot of debate here and there and over the past few years about minimalism or barefoot or whatever. I'm not necessarily advocating for barefoot running, but I am advocating that everybody, if you are having a technique issue, you feel like you have a weakness, go outside, find a smooth sidewalk, not like a driveway driveway is good, but not like road concrete, but something smoother. Go sockless and shoeless, 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and your body will teach you so many things about what you're doing. I'm not saying go for your long run barefoot. I'm not. I'm saying that just taking the time to learn from the things that your body's already presenting is there will do so much for you. As it pertains to trails, in general, you spend so much time on your forefoot on the trail, unless it's a real buffed out trail. I don't even see where stability does anything, particularly because most medial posting, whether it's medial posting in terms of a mechanical thing, where you've got a denser foam on the medial side extending from the front side of the calcaneus to the back side of the first metatarsal head. So basically from the front of the heel to the ball of foot, it doesn't go under the ball of the foot, which is particularly where, or specifically where imbalance happens. If you think about your foot like a tripod, you got your 3 points, the calcaneus, the first metatarsal head, your big toe, and then your little toe, the fifth metatarsal head. It's like a tripod, and if you've got one leg that's shorter, it's going to tip that way. That's where pronation comes from. So if you're spending all your time up on that forefoot anyway, you're only really using the 2 points, so it kind of becomes a bipod almost. So it doesn't really matter what happens in the rear foot as much. Again, on buffed out trails, it's a different story. But as I mentioned a second ago, I feel like if everybody gave more strength and work after the run, or before, or whenever you want to do that strength work, I think so many problems would be fixed. Even taking my favorite thing to tell people to do is do the 2 minutes when you're brushing your teeth. Brush your top teeth, do half like shallow dip, single leg shallow dips. So like a 10-inch dip on each leg the whole time. So you're brushing your top teeth, do 1 minute of right leg, brush your bottom teeth, 1 minute of left leg. That's a great way to strengthen your gluteus medius and work on those really kind of core stabilizing muscles down in the lower abs and the legs. And that's a way just right there where you're not wasting any more time and you're starting to really embrace that strength. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. I apologize.
I agree.
All right.
No, I mean, honestly, Brandon nailed it in much better terms than I was going to say, to be totally honest. Like, I think there's a lot of things out there that are Band-Aids for a much deeper issue. Yep. And I took a year when I first started getting back into running to completely reteach myself how to run. And it sucked. And I like injured myself and had to recover from certain injuries. But I basically started from scratch, and it's helped considerably. I'm not saying that I'm injury free all the time. There's so much stuff that I have to constantly work on and recheck and all that. I'm not super fast, but I'm definitely one of those mid-packers that by learning how to run better, I completely changed my game and my outlook on the sport and my ability to run further more comfortably. Mm-hmm. So like Brandon went into far more detail. So re-listen to those minutes over and over and over again until you understand what he's trying to say. Stability is bullshit. What else? We got some more stuff.
Justin Napod asks, when you purchase a shoe, do you use the insoles that come with that shoe, or do you replace them with an insole that you like?
Orthotics I hate. I think orthotics are BS, but
I think we're talking more like insole basics.
Right. I'm just saying that if you're replacing an insole that comes with a shoe with an orthotic that maybe you're already used to, I always just go with what the shoe comes with, purely as a reviewer, because I want to see what the shoe does right out of the box. That's
designed that way for a reason.
It's designed that way for a reason. I agree. There are occasions where I have taken insoles out of shoes that I really like and put them in other shoes that maybe don't have insoles. For example, my dress shoes that I wear with my suit this weekend have Hoka insoles in them, Ortholite Hoka insoles, because I liked them. So I put them in the dress shoes and they work out pretty damn good.
My daughter's ankle high little kitten cowgirl boots have Skechers insoles that I took, made a template, and then cut some out of some extra insoles that I had sitting around.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I have those same boots.
Yeah, Kim has the same boots.
Nice.
Katie Nelson asks, can we watch or spectate at Transrockies at any point in the race?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I imagine I would doubt watch. I mean, like video watch, that would be impressive. I mean,
actually, I believe they're going to be film crews, and there's going to be a whole bunch of. I think they're filming this for a TV show or something this year.
Oh, I got to step it up. Can you listen? If we see a bunch of cameras, just smack me and act like we're fighting. Okay.
This is the worst idea ever. I'm assuming I don't know what signal's like up in the mountains. I'm assuming there's none.
Not great.
Very little. I mean, I imagine doing maybe a couple Facebook Lives if we have. I think camp has Wi-Fi. I think camp will have some sort of
nice
Wi-Fi. I believe they do that. So if that's the case, I'm going to try to do some Facebook Lives.
That would be spectacular
from camp. But as far as spectating, just trail races in general, you can usually spectate from anywhere along the course as long as you can get there fine. But if it impedes on the runner's ability to progress through the course, that's going to be an issue. If it's 18, like Brandon was saying, if it's Long's Peak and there's 18 inches of trail, don't spectate on that section. It's unsafe. It's stupid. But yeah, maybe the start finish. I imagine the start finishes will be pretty epic.
Well, I might have this. We can talk about it, but I might have this with me. I don't know if I've talked about this before.
Spot. Yep.
Spot beacon. So I might have this with me, which can track us the whole way. It'll just like, I can set it to check in every like 2 minutes or 10 minutes or what have you. So it might be a good idea to run that. We'll see.
That's great. Yeah. Well, we can definitely. I didn't know you had a spot, so that's perfect. We can throw that out there. People can track us live. If Transrockies isn't doing something like that, which I don't know if they are, but the spot will be perfect for that. Any last questions there, Bim?
Tim Snow, best suggestion for lightweight camera stabilization system for running with a GoPro.
Depends on the weather. If it's raining, all electric gimbals are off. You're going to ruin the gimbal. You're going to ruin the camera, because at this point there is no available waterproof gimbal for GoPro on the market. There are Kickstarters and Indiegogos with all of these quoted waterproof things. I have yet to see any of these come to market, so I'm very skeptical of all of those. I've been watching things like this for years and nothing has come out. If you're dry climate, Feiyutech G4, G4S are like, they're just the go-to gimbals because they're fairly affordable. You can strap your GoPro on it and they're pretty solid. The problem is that they don't have any sort of Apple or Mac integration, so there's no app available to document any of that kind of stuff. If you want to grab that right there, this is something that I just used at Sun Mountain. I'll hold your computer. Sorry, I don't mean to make Kim do that. This is something that I was running in the 50 miler last weekend that was rainy.
I think you showed this.
I did show it last week, but it was super rainy. I knew that going into it. I knew that my electric gimbal wouldn't work, because the last thing I want to do is take something that's battery operated out into the rain. Dumping rain. So I opted not to do that, and I used this instead. It's the first time I used it. It's heavy. Major downside is that this thing, well, two downsides. One, it looks like an adult device.
You mean a torpedo?
I mean a torpedo.
A missile?
A meat tenderizer?
It's a meat
tenderizer.
A meat tenderizer.
What are you talking about?
A crotch-pedo? I think we know.
I didn't. My mom's watching.
Yours or mine?
My mom is
okay,
watching.
then I won't use that term again, because mine doesn't care. It's heavy. This is about 1.5 pounds, almost 2 pounds, but you can strap on the, never want to use that term again, a waterproof GoPro case up to the top here. But what happens is you extend it out.
There's so many jokes here. You got
so many.
And there's a lot of colorful jokes happening in the chat room right now.
It turns into a gimbal.
Like
so,
a counterbalance thing.
Yeah, like a counterbalance. It's fine. It's not great, but it has proven to be better than the selfie stick that I've been using over the last couple of years. That's it. Otherwise, there is no waterproof version of a stabilizer out that I know of, other than these gimbals that are handheld and require quite a bit of finesse.
Because it doesn't get like a swinging image at some point.
Like if you watch my Sun Mountain 50 miler vid, you'll see at the end. Let's say I'm following Kim at the end when she finishes her 50 miler. It's a perfect example. You'll see the footage kind of bob back and forth, and that's a result of having a gimbal that requires user finesse as opposed to an electronic stabilization technique.
But that's just because I was running so fast.
Because Kim was running so fast and leaning back and forth.
Yeah. She was drunk at the time.
Totally wasted.
Could you do? I imagine it's not worth it, but could you do motion tracking to correct for that? I mean, it would take hours.
I do for most of the shots that are visually jarring,
nauseating.
Yeah, because if you use a selfie stick, by extending the camera out from your body, you're already using essentially gravity and distance to add or to act as a fulcrum.
Yep.
So you're reducing some vibration that way, but then you bring that footage into post and it still looks like garbage. You add a post stabilization to it in whatever editing software. It helps, but a lot of the time you get artifacting. It grows the picture, so you lose quality. There's all sorts of things that come into play there. With this little gimbal here, the footage was far less shaky than a handheld selfie stick, so I was able to add some stabilization in post, and it helped. I think this is the best looking handheld video that I've done in a long time that does not incorporate a electronic gimbal. So I'm happy with that, but it's 2 pounds, so I had to compensate by just in my mind thinking, you have an additional water bottle in your backpack. That's the weight.
Or a dildo. I mean,
or a giant dildo. Maybe like one more question, if you've got one, or otherwise.
There's a lot of camera questions.
I knew I was going to go there.
Yeah. So if you want to get into that, we can get into that.
What? Let's do one, because I think that's a whole other episode.
I'll do two quick ones. One, Raul asked, did your hand get like fatigued holding that because it weighs?
Did your hand get tired holding the giant shaft?
Like tons of chafing. So wearing the hydration pack that I wear, it fit into the pack. So a lot of people, I've said it before, and I think a lot of people don't realize, I don't film 9.5 hours of racing. I'm not holding this in my hand. I'm not holding it in my fingers or like trying to record everything. I don't attach it to my head or in my mouth or on my chest, because that's all that I'm not going to do that. So it stays in my backpack. I pull it out for maybe 60 seconds to 2 minutes at a time, and film different angles and different shots. So I kind of group things together, and then I get rid of it and I forget it. Someone on some mountain 50 miler was like, I would never waste my opportunity in nature focusing on the camera and worrying about the camera and all this stuff. I was like, dude, you watched a video that's minutes long that incorporates seconds of footage that was shot over 9.5 hours. Yeah. I had a lot of time to look at nature and enjoy my experience. So this plays very little role in my whole
Like how often do people like look at their phones and stuff during?
Probably more so.
Right.
Yeah. I don't film. I mean, when I do things that are kind of not gear oriented are much less involved than yours, but even still, I mean, yeah, if you're, I'd say maybe 1% of the total run that you're out there. I mean, it doesn't take much, especially since I've noticed, and I don't have the creative eye that you do toward film particularly, but you start to see things through your mind's eye very rapidly. So you start to, like, pictures, for instance, you can set up a picture before I can set up a sort of a picture in my brain without even pulling out my phone or my device or camera to see, you know, like I use a Sony Action Cam 4K to use that. I can see exactly what I want to see before I even pull out the camera and look at it, which is kind of one of those things of just doing it. You know, you just kind of get used to what you're going to see in when you pull in the picture.
For sure. I usually am at a point where I'll see something and go, I want my viewers to see this because I'm seeing it and it's incredible. How can I capture this without like slowing down too much? You know, I'm not stopping on the trail unless, of course, I'm running so fast, which is never the case. But I run to the point where I like pass this moment. I'm like, oh, that moment I should go back. And sometimes I do backtrack a little bit to capture a reveal or running by a tree or, you know, something that is more dynamic than just running through the forest sometimes. Someone back there said this, everyone in here is so pro. I just ran my first 10K or something. A part of this show is to welcome everyone of all types. And trust me, you are not the only person to maybe only run a 10K, and to think that it's only a 10K is it's false, because 10Ks are hard.
Oh God.
10K. It's not an only thing.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a full, like.
I bet you, honestly, I like to say it like this. I don't care if you're running 26 miles or if you're running 100 meters. If you're doing it right,
it's hard.
Those things are just as hard. They are.
Absolutely.
You're just put it all out there. When you cross the finish line, I bet you that Usain Bolt is done, but I bet you that Tony Caprichka is done too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we have a bunch of ultra friends who have been on the show before. Alex Varner, Chris Varga, all these guys have, and ladies as well, who have talked about ran a 50 mile. Yeah, hurts. It sucked. Ran a 5K. Hurt way worse, because you're going redline. I mean, you're redlining, even though it's only 25 minutes or whatever, however long it takes them, 10 minutes. It's still, you're pushing your body to the absolute breaking point. And it's absolutely hard. You should be pushing hard for whatever distance it is. Go ahead, Brandon.
Do you mind if I shamelessly self-plug real quick? Something?
Go for it.
Somebody asked in the chat room if I had any of those trucker hats available. We did a limited run of technical trucker hats from Boco Gear, and they just came in today. And so here's our first piece of gear. With
hot.
Yeah. So I wanted to send each of you and Kim one, but I have a very limited number, so I'll send you one. You can share it.
We have a lot of hats in this house.
We have a lot of hats in this house.
So we're actually sold out for the person that asked, we might be doing another run if people. I think this thing is really dope. I'm not running. We got little sublimated mountains on the underside of the brim there. We got the little Gearist Colorado logo there. I don't know if you can see.
Yep.
Anyway. So, sort of. There are a couple people that I've had conversations with, somebody that's in Canada that I'll be sending one to, but that's outside of the thing. So just stay tuned, subscribe to our YouTube channel and stuff. And that's a good way. So I just want to answer that question before someone goes and tries to buy some that aren't there. Sorry about that.
The hats look awesome, man. They turned out really, really great.
It did.
I'm gonna wrap up the show because
I have to make dinner.
Yeah, we have to eat dinner. West Coast time.
Chris Fargo's like eating elk tacos, and I was like, "We're making tacos.
We're making tacos too.
Not.
It's also not the first time that we've had the same dinner as Chris and Alicia on any given night.
Their cameras in their house.
What is?
We have cameras in there.
We have the camera. We're watching what they're doing. Okay, guys. Thank you so much again for tuning in tonight live. Go follow Gearist across social media and subscribe to the YouTube channel. He's always posting new videos and stuff. You don't want to miss it. If you haven't already, also subscribe to the Ginger Runner, the channel you are currently watching. Just click the subscribe button.
I gotta do that.
Also follow Ethan's beard.
Follow my beard.
At Ethan's beard.
At Ethan's beard. It's not a real thing, but
probably will be.
It probably will be by the end of the show. And I bet it's gonna be real witty, real funny. A lot of dildo jokes. Oh boy.
Dad joke.
Dad jokes. Thank you guys for continuing to return every Monday to watch the hijinks on the show. It gets better every week. Like I have more fun every week. I always look forward to Mondays. Our guests are always just a blast to have on. Brandon is no exception. Brandon is now one of the most frequented guests on the show and just a delight to have on. Follow us in the coming weeks and months because Transrockies is going to begin to unfold. We're going to be doing training and all sorts of stuff. We'll be talking about it. I'm going to Boulder at some point, whether it's going to be once or twice, it's going to happen. We're going to Boulder. I don't want to say me. I'm dragging you along with me. So just keep following because you'll be seeing some new stuff. And again, if you aren't already a Patreon supporter, consider it. For as little as $1 a month, and you can end it at any time. There's no obligation. You help keep the lights on and the mics hot here, and it helps make videos happen. And because this is it, this is our full-time job. This is everything. Is Ginger Runner, and as is the Gearist and stuff. So you guys are fantastic. There's so much stuff I want to tease, but I won't. I'll save it for next week and future episodes, and for Patreon only. You guys are fantastic. We'll see you next Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific for another Ginger Runner Live. There's some yelling outside. Apparently there's a party. Happy Memorial Day, except it's not one of those kind of holidays, but everyone seems to celebrate it that way here in Los Angeles. And thank you for all who have served. We'll see you guys next week. That's it. Good night.